Jordan Levin was born profoundly deaf. Through the dedication of his parents, Marty and Marlene, Jordan has accomplished many things his doctors thought impossible. Marty Levin has written a book about his experiences in overcoming Jordan's disability. We caught up with the Levin family at the annual Jewish Book Fair in Metro Detroit to learn more.
Today is the last day of the 58th annual Jewish Book Fair in Michigan. It's the largest Jewish book fair in the country, and Jordan, myself, and Marlene are going to speak about our book, We Were Relentless. I had been thinking about writing the book for a long time, and I felt it was a story that needed to be told because it's totally positive, it's uplifting. It's a great story as far as making people understand what they can achieve in their lives. Jordan, being profoundly deaf, Jordan had a long road to go, and he's achieved things that no one ever would have thought that he could achieve, because when we first found out about it, the prognosis that the professionals had told us was fairly dismal.
The book is about Jordan and about all the struggles and situations that we went throughout the years. Whenever either Marty or myself would be telling the story about Jordan and all that we went through, people were forever saying, "You've got to write a book about this," because they would be fascinated. So I'm so glad Marty did it.
Jordan was born prematurely, and this affected his development. Here his parents explain.
Jordan was born at he was 31 ounces, he was 11 inches long, he was close to 3 months premature. He was actually born in our apartment. We had no idea what was going on at the time. We actually thought he was a miscarriage because he was so small. We called EMS, and luckily he breathed on his own for a while before we got him to the hospital.
When he came home from the hospital, which he was there for his first 4 months of his life, they told us that developmentally he was not 4 months old, he was 0, and that was like day one. So we were told that developmentally he would probably be lagging in many ways, and we should just watch those things. But he was our first child, we didn't really have a good frame of reference, but we did know, we were alerted to these things. And he did do things late. He walked late, and he wasn't talking, and at many points we started questioning about him not talking, but we kept saying, "Oh, it's Jordan," and this and that. And we did take him to the doctor at one point and questioned it, and he kind of pushed it aside and said, he'll talk when he's ready. And it was at that point that we started getting really serious with ourselves, trying to determine if he was speaking, and then we took him back and all the testing began, and then we found out what was really going on.
Jordan's parents were not satisfied with the doctor's prognosis. Again, Marlene Levin.
Well, at the beginning, the things that we were told weren't very positive, and the little we were learning in the beginning, we just weren't satisfied with what we were hearing. I would go and say, in this program that we had started with, I would go and ask them, what can we hope? What could you show me an older child and tell me how they're doing and let me see them? And I did, and that was terribly disappointing because it was that program where they said that they were teaching children to speak, but it truly wasn't. So we weren't satisfied. We just had higher hopes, not knowing how or what they really were at that point, but we just weren't satisfied with the possibility that was the best he could be.
Marlene and Marty began researching techniques that could assist Jordan in achieving his potential. While in a bookstore, Marlene met a clerk whose friend had a deaf child. She spoke with this woman and learned about the Learning to Listen method.
The method we followed was called Learning to Listen. And just because you put a hearing aid on a child doesn't mean that they can tell what the different sounds are. So when you put a hearing aid on a young child, because they haven't had the experience like most children hear all the noises, and over time they learn to associate what the sounds are. When you put a hearing aid on, say, a 2 or 3 year old child, he's had all the time he never heard anything. So you have to teach him to associate the sounds. For example, we would take Jordan outside, and if an airplane was going by, we would tell him, listen to the airplane. We'd say, this is an airplane, this is an airplane. We went inside and would have someone call on the telephone, and we'd tell him, this is a telephone. So he had to learn to associate what all these sounds are. So it teaches to use the residual hearing the person has when it's amplified a little bit. Lip reading, we wanted him to learn to hear these sounds. Subsequently, he learned how to lip read on his own.
It was a challenge. Like everything else is a challenge. One of the hardest things is you have to keep in mind, I was so hyperactive when I was younger that I could not sit still. So every time they tried to get me to sit down to do a formal speech lesson or a formal learning to listen lesson, it would take 30 minutes. Following me around the house, inside, outside, and all that. Finally, we sit down and we'd have an actual formal lesson.
Marlene and Marty advocated for Jordan at school. As he grew older, Jordan was taught to advocate for himself. He has gone to college and received a business degree. He owns a gym and works as a personal fitness trainer. He also does motivational speaking, where he inspires and motivates others. He's proof of what can be accomplished if given the chance. Jordan didn't know all the things his parents did for him until he read his father's book. Again, Jordan Levin.
It's kind of, I don't want to say awkward, but it's kind of unique that I'm having, there's a book out there about my story that is out there to the public knowledge. It's kind of weird. I'm comfortable with it, but it took me a while to realize that. And the biggest thing that for me is when I first read the book before it was published, I sat down, I was at my parents' house, and I began to read the book. And there were so many things that I did not know that they had done to get me to where I am today. I was blown away by it. Some of the situations that I kept saying, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, why did you do this? Why did you do it this way? Well, how come you didn't this? Well, why? It was such an eye-opener, and it's a fabulous story, and I'm proud to be their son.